On to 3-1 right now, looked pretty confident. And in definitely a good matchup there with the Naya Blitz deck. So you guys can see just exactly how explosive that deck is. But we're going to cut over to our next match on camera. On the right, we have John Sittner playing Jund. Very straightforward deck list. I know that you do have in front of you right now.
Yeah, he's, again, it's another Jund Reanimator matchup where the Jund opponent actually has more graveyard removal than we've been accustomed to. He's got 2 Slaughter Games, 2 Grave Digger's Cage, and 1 Rakdos Charm. So he's actually a little better suited against Reanimator than some of the other Jund decks that we've seen. But beyond that, I mean, it's pretty similar. He's got the he's got 1 Nighthawk, he's got the Huntmasters, he's got the Thragtusk, he's got 2 Arbor Elves and 2 of Olivia, and then his removal and his spells are a little. He got a little creative. He's got 1 Murder, 1 Searing Spear, 1 Dreadbore, 1 Ultimate Price, 1 Deadweight, sort of hedging across. And then he's got some Abrupt Decay, some Mizzium Mortars, 2 Rakdos Return. Just pretty much everything you expect out of a Jund deck.
Yeah, a little bit of this,
a little bit of this, a little of that.
Now, a deck that you're not going to expect, and a deck that I should not be familiar with, but I actually am, because I tested it out about 5 months ago, is the Seance Reanimator deck. And what this deck is trying to do, first and foremost, is to get Seance in play. From there, things can begin to spiral out of control a little bit with Sphinx of Utham. You can remember Angel of Glory's Rise, Angel of Serenity. You're making copies of this, and the thing that a lot of people didn't realize, and I actually didn't realize when I first started playing the deck, is that Seance triggers on both upkeeps. So, if you already have a Sphinx of Utham in the graveyard, which is the best thing to bring back with Seance, you get it back on their turn, lets you factor Fiction. Now, the problem with this deck, of course, is that none of the guys actually have haste when you bring them back. So they can't attack right away. So one of the ways that you actually make them be able to do that is with making see if it's in his deck list here. Ooh, it's not. His Slayer Stronghold. Yeah, that's how you're actually able to get across. Now, the other way that this deck is actually able to win if you don't have Slayer Stronghold is you combo them with Mirror-Mad Phantasm and Laboratory Maniac. You actually bring back a copy of Mirror-Mad Phantasm with Seance, you activate the ability, and then you're able to get back Laboratory Maniac and kill them. That's a lot of work to go through to win a game, but it can happen, as we do see that Connor has at least 2 wins here, potentially 3, and you're going to see him cast a High Priest of Penance here. But first and foremost, this deck doesn't operate very well without Seance being in play. Now, luckily, it's able to actually, do a pretty good job of actually finding the card between Faithless Looting and Is It Charm to draw 2, discard 2, because you do want cards in the graveyard anyway.
What are the advantages of the Seance Reanimator deck to the typical human Reanimator deck that we saw earlier?
I'm not convinced that there are any. All things being honest, this is a deck that I really wanted to make work because it can see so many cards during the course of a game. Having Seance in play kind of lets you, it feels like you're playing an unfair game. But it doesn't really stand up to graveyard hate very well, as you're going to see in Is It Charm here. But I guess, it can kind of interact in a different way with the opponent. And maybe it can play a normal game straight up, because it can't just play a game where it does just cast Sphinx of Utham, can cast Angel of Serenity, can cast Angel of Glory's Rise, and play a more normal game of Magic with the opponent. But as far as, is it better than a Human Reanimator deck where a Human Reanimator just kills you immediately when it goes off? I'm not convinced it can do those things. But we do see that Connor is up a game here. So, maybe there are some advantages that this deck has that I don't quite realize.
I like the idea of having Seance in the deck, because it's basically your 5th through 8th or 5th through 7th in Burial Rites.
Yeah.
But like you said, it seems like a lot of work to do, some cute things, but you're not winning the game outright, Not quite sure how much I like this compared to a deck like the one we saw earlier, where you're just, your goal is to just Unburial Rites an Angel and win.
Yeah, you just win the game immediately. And we're going to see John put a Huntmaster trigger on. Is It Charm's going to take care of that, so there will be no Lumberjack flipping. So an Isolated Chapel here, and he's going to follow that up with another High Priest of Penance.
So, looks like he has an Angel of Serenity in his hand, which would be pretty great once if he's able to ever actually cast it. But beyond that, it looks like he's far away from any sort of combo happening. Can't tell what the last card in Connor's hand is. Both players are feverishly shuffling their hands.
Don't want anyone to know. And we do see Acidic Slime here, so that's going to make it a little bit more difficult to cast that there Angel of Serenity that's in Connor's hand. Now you see John trying to figure out what land am I supposed to blow up. Dangerous game here.
Probably got to go after one of the white sources. My guess is you probably want to go after a Hollow Fountain, but all right. So
Choose
Isolate
Chapel.
So is that a Supreme Vertical?
Yeah, that is the other card in his hand, and he does draw.
Another land.
Looks like a Clifftop Retreat for the turn. Angel Serenity is a card that the Jund deck does not really want to play against. It's just pure card advantage. It is very expensive, as you do see Clifftop Retreat, and Connor does just pass the turn. But upon resolution, it getting those cards back, it being able to sweep some things out of the way, it is a pretty big pain in the butt for a Jund deck to deal with. As we see Connor come across here.
So Penance triggers, killing the Acidic Slime, and Connor takes 2. So John doesn't look like he has too many ways to deal with the Angel Serenity, but staffing in with Connor at 8 now, staffing in might be enough.
Yeah, this starts to feel like a real win condition now.
Yeah, like he's gonna drop Connor to 7, draw 2 cards, maybe get into a Rakdos return to sort of close it out.
John tapping 5 mana. He's going to Unburial Rites,
Wow.
bring back that High Priest of Penance, and I mean, doesn't seem great, but can't be too proud. Now, one of the things interesting here, Osip, is that if he does shoot it with Staffing then High Priest is actually just going to kill the Wolf token. So,
but we know John has an Abrupt Decay at least, so looks like John's going to win this game. Connor's deck just wasn't giving him the things he needed.
So let's see exactly what John does here. He's going to tap 4 mana right away. Looks like it's going to be 5, and we're going to see Rakdos return. 4-3. Going to take care of those last cards. Angel Serenity and Supreme Verdict bite the dust. Oddly enough, that's a little bit dangerous, as we do see Blood Crypt come into play untapped. Abrupt Decay is going to take care of this. In for 2. Looks like it's going to knock Connor down to 2. Connor's going to draw a card. So a Burial Rites on Angel Serenity is a thing that can happen right now, but the Staffing in is providing the inevitability. And you do see Connor concede the game, so John Sittner is going to win game 2 of this 3-game match.
So again, I get how Saiyans could be effective, but you're not really doing anything nearly as consistent as the Human Reanimator. We saw there in Burial Rites on High Priest, which is pretty much the worst thing you want to do in the mid to late game.
Yeah.
He's got cards like Grizzlebrand, Sphinx. Obviously, they're big body threats that are going to be decent against the Jund deck. But yeah, not being able to win just outright on turn 4 seems like a mistake if you're choosing between Reanimator decks to go with the Seance over the typical Human Reanimator.
Yeah, one of the things I found when I was playing the Seance deck, and the first place you normally start is with Mirror Mad Phantasm and Laboratory Maniac, because that's the quote-unquote combo kill, is that it's actually just pretty difficult to set up.
Well, yeah, you only have one of Mirror Mad Phantasm, right?
Yeah,
so
but you can't play more.
Yeah, but you need to mill it somehow in order to effectively. So, yeah, it just seems like a Reanimator deck that's trying to do too much.
Yeah, you're going through a lot. And the nice thing here is that, you can generate a lot of card advantage with Seance plus Sphinx of Utham and set some things up. But one of the things that I realized when I was testing this deck is that Slayer Stronghold was like integral to actually winning the game, is to be able to give your Sphinx and your Gristlebrands or your Angels or whatever gigantic threat that you're trying to shoot into play haste, so it doesn't just sit there and look stupid.
Yeah, well, he's got High Priest of Penance and Staticaster, so it's one of his things where he just makes a copy of High Priest and then shoots it to kill a permanent each turn.
Sure.
So, I mean, that's interesting, but...
Well, the thing with that is that with the Seance is that it actually removes the card from the graveyard after you bring it back, so it's kind of a one-shot deal.
You get basically, like, you can kill any permanent you want, but... Yeah, to your point, it's a one-shot deal, and I don't know. It seems like this deck's mana is even worse than the Human Reanimator deck. So I'm not sure what advantages you really gain.
Well, taking a look at the sideboard here, as far as cards that Connor can bring in for this 3rd game, and they are sideboarded, of course, already. There's an additional copy of Angel's Glorious Rise in the sideboard, Psychic Spiral in the sideboard as well, in case things do degenerate to that point. Also has a couple copies of Feeling of Dread if he wants to prolong the game. And he's got the Supreme Verdicts. He has 4 of those, which we know he brought in at least one of them. Not sure how many. And besides that, that's really it that he has going on in his sideboard for this kind of matchup. Doesn't look like he has a ton of things against Jund. But again, once you do actually get the card Seance in play, then you start to generate a pretty large advantage and things start to snowball. in such a way that it might be too difficult for the Jund deck to actually come back. The question is, can he actually get it in play and snowball that advantage? That's the tough part.
Yeah, I like how, I will say that with High Priest of Penance and Static Caster in your main deck, and cards like Feeling of Dread and Cathedral Sanctifier on your sideboard, I could see how theoretically this deck could be better positioned against the Naya Blitz deck than the other Human Reanimator
Sure.
deck. So that could be one reason to play this deck. We know that Naya Blitz is a very good matchup against a traditional Human Reanimator deck. But if you're playing against a Reanimator deck with Static Casters and High Priest main, that might be enough for you to survive turns 1 through 4 so that you can actually start getting some advantages with your reanimation spells.
We do see both players are going to keep their opening 7. Connor's going to lead with a Steam Venge. John just with a Dragon Skull Summit. We see a Glacial Fortress here, and that's going to lead into a Chronic Flooding.
All right, so that's one card that we didn't see last game. That's definitely huge. Without it, Connor just doesn't have enough ways to dig. He doesn't have Mulch, he doesn't have Grizzly Savage, so definitely a huge card there. Although John does have the Farseek for a potential turn 3 Slaughter Games.
Yep, so he's going to stay as far ahead as he can here, try to keep up with Connor. You do see a Grafdigger's Cage in John's hand right now.
And I'm not sure how many answers Connor has to a Grafdigger's Cage.
Taking a look at that in his sideboard, you're not going to find any here. He looks like he's pretty well set up, for a card like Ground Seal, or Rest in Peace with 4 copies of War Priest of Thune, but you don't find any ways to destroy an artifact here in his sideboard. You're not going to find a card like Ancient Grudge or anything like that, so this Grafdigger's Cage could prove quite problematic, as you're going to see Steam Vents get tapped, mill over 3 cards, Sphinx of Utham to go along with 2 Blood Crypts. Now you're going to see an Izzet Charm here from Connor, so he's going to start getting through his deck very, very quickly here. Gristlebrand put into the graveyard, as is Izzet Static Caster. You're going to see a Isolated Chapel come into play tap, and he's just going to pass the turn back to John.
So he's got the turn 3 Seance. The problem is that John has a Grafdigger's Cage, but how does Grafdigger's Cage interact with Seance? I don't believe that it stops the copy from being created, right? So that's one thing that'll, it'll help him actually get a Grizzlebrand copy into play. He can draw 7 cards, but beyond that, oh wow, so he doesn't play.
He doesn't play the Cage here, and he's not in any real risk of. He's not in any real danger here. As you see, Goblet Shrine come to play off an Burial Rites, so I think maybe that's why John feels he can just play the Underworld.
I don't know though,
but
he has a Chronic Flooding in play, so he could have milled it in Burial Rites. It's pretty risky,
And you are going to see Seance here from Connor, and just going to pass the turn back. So now this is where things get going. This is going to trigger this on the first turn.
There's a Sphinx.
And you see Rakdos Charm.
So that is why he did not care.
Yes. So Rakdos Charm going to remove the graveyard of Connor, so no Seancing this turn. John, pretty well set up. He's going to pay a life. He's going to draw a card there with the Underworld Connections. You guys do see Rakdos Charm there on the screen, one of the 3 modes, all of which are quite powerful.
Again, though, turn 3 Underworld Connection is very risky. I know that Connor doesn't have an Burial Rites in his graveyard, but he's got Chronic Flooding. So there's definitely a chance that Connor could have just won the game right there and gotten a Grizzlebrand, or even a Sphinx probably is good enough.
We do see Connor here take a draw step. Still does have access to that Chronic Flooding, and for those of you guys wondering at home, the interaction between Grafdigger's Cage and Seance, it works favorably for Connor, not for John. Seance actually ends up exiling target creature and then putting a copy of it into play. So he can work around a Grafdigger's Cage, and we see Flooding reveal a Hallowed Fountain, a Steam Fence, and a High Priest of Penance. Izzet Charm, another High Priest there, and a Hallowed Fountain turned over. So Seance trigger goes on the stack. It looks like Connor's going to yield to that and just say, nope, keep going.
Yeah, he's got a Static Caster in his hand, so I think he wants to wait until he can cast the Static Caster and ping his Penance.
Ping his Penance.
Ping his Penance.
Yeah. Didn't think we'd be saying that today. We see a Duress here.
Which is actually a way to deal with Grafdigger's Cage.
Yeah.
So he does have an answer to it. So Duress whiffs. does John not have a 5th wing? So John's drawing a lot of removal spells, or a lot of his sideboard cards, but he doesn't have too many threats right now, so he's giving Connor some time to get out of this.
No, if the game stays the way it is right now, obviously John is going to be able to create a long-term advantage with the Underworld connections, but he's got to get busy here.
Yeah.
Because those 2 Chronic Floodings basically are saying draw 6, even though it doesn't feel like it.
Yeah. Well, Connor can deal with the Underworld connection land on this turn if he chooses to.
Yeah, he can take care of the Underworld connections with the High Priest.
Which I think is reasonable. I mean, you get to LD your opponent, and you deal with a recurring card drawing spell. So.
Well, it destroys target non-land permanent.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so he'll be able to take care of the connections itself. As you see, he's going to tap the mana here, get the information, Angel Serenity, Seance, and Clifftop Retreat. He's going to mill 3 more, so 2 Angel of Glory Rises and a Drowned Catacombs. And now you are going to see, you're going to see that is a Static Caster. John's going to think for a minute here.
So does he have an Abrupt Decay or another removal spell? Looks like he has another Reckless Train.
He's going to shoot this. Interesting combo. You're going to see Murder.
Yeah, he does have the Murder.
Okay.
So wants to keep that Underworld connections around. Again, what is Connor's plan on John's upkeep? Is it just return an Angel Serenity and try to get some return the Angel Serenity and get Angel into my hand?
Yeah, there's the option of returning Angel Serenity and bringing back some Angel of Glory Rises exiled underneath that. There's the option of bringing that back, and this brings back a High Priest of Penance, which is reasonable. But that Angel of Glory's Rise is going to go bye-bye, so it's not actually going to do very much. It's just an expensive way to get back the High Priest. You see John is going to take a nice look at the Seance there, and we'll bring it up for you guys as well, because again, it's a card that doesn't see a ton of play. It is a little bit complicated in what it can do, but it does work on both upkeeps. You exile that creature, and then you do bring it back. So John's probably checking to see how that does work with Grafdigger's Cage, and he's probably finding out that it works unfavorably for him.
So, yeah, like you said, I guess if Connor just is able to hit his Mirror Map Phantasm, he just went out right. But seems like a lot of work.
So now we see Huntmaster of the Fells here from John. Angel of Glory's Rise is going to go to the exile. And so now Connor is going to decide what he wants to do in his upkeep again with his Seance. And he just says, okay, I'm going to pass on that. I'll draw a card here. Flooding number 1 is going to happen. You see an Unburial Rites, a blue card. It might be Mirror Mad, but I can't confirm that. And a Faithless Looting.
I believe that's a Laboratory Maniac.
Okay. You see Faithless Looting here.
Hitting an Unburial Rites is great because now he can actually discard the Angel and, he can get back his Angel Serenity.
Yep. You see another flooding there. It's going to be with Unburial Rites, Is It Charm, and Clifftop Retreat. And it looks like he is in a hurry to cast that Unburial Rites. He's going to cast it. It's going to get back Angel of Glory's Rise. This is going to bring back a whole bunch of Static Casters and a Laboratory Maniac. So just a good value on Unburial Rites right now.
Yeah, so he can, kill the Huntmaster. He can still ping his Penance if he wants to deal with the Underworld Connection.
And Underworld Penance, High Priest Penance, it's not scared. It's coming in. It takes care of the Huntmaster. Gonna shoot the Wolf token, so that's gonna go away.
I'm surprised he didn't deal with the Underworld Connection.
I guess he doesn't really see it to be much of a problem right now. And I'm not entirely sure I disagree with him.
Yeah, but with two Static Casters, I mean, you have answers to Huntmaster.
Sure.
I'm not afraid of the Huntmaster because you could have killed it with your Static Caster.
So, sure.
I would have preferred to just take out the Underworld Connection and then just tap all my Static Casters to kill all his creatures.
Sure. And now you see John finally does cast that Grafdigger's Cage. Maybe something that should have taken place a little bit earlier.
Well, again, with the Static Caster the Staticaster and the High Priest, he would have been able to deal with it. But so it's going to shut down the Burial Rites at least, the second Burial Rites that he has in his graveyard.
High Priest is going to come back now. Connor draws a card here. And, you know, it's funny that Connor's draw step is somewhat relevant, but I think the most important thing here as far as cards moving back and forth are the 6 cards that he's milling from the Chronic Floodings.
Yeah.
Those are his actual draw steps for the turn. As you see, he's going to tap the Steam Fence here. He's going to turn over 3 cards. Faithless Looting Seance and Clifftop Retreat are the first 3. Glacial Fortress is going to get tapped here. Is it Charm? Unburial Rites and Glacial Fortress are going to get turned over. Now you're going to see Chronic Flooding number 3 get cast on a Sulphur Falls.
And he can still cast Face Looting if he chooses to.
He's going to shoot the High Priest. It's going to take care of the Underworld Connection, something that you brought up a little bit earlier. The High Priest is the token copy, so it is exiled. And you're going to see an attack here for 6.
Yeah, it seems like a little strange sequence of events for Connor.
Maybe that connection should have been gone last turn.
Yeah, I think I would prefer it. If you're either going to try to attack him to death, or you're going to try to eventually win with your combo. I feel like if you want to let him keep taking a life a turn, that's a reasonable plan. But I'm not sure why he didn't just deal with it last turn.
You see 3 more cards turn over there from the Chronic Flooding, and he does just pass the turn back. Seance Trigger goes on the stack. Nothing occurs. John's going to draw a card. Not sure if he's looking for Bonfire of the Damned or not, but that certainly wasn't it.
Yeah, I don't think he has many sweeping effects. So those 3 Staticasters can actually do a pretty good job of keeping any good creatures off the board.
Cavern of Souls is going to come in. John is going to decide what he's going to name what that looks like. Maybe he missed naming something here, but you know, as we go, I'm sure we'll figure out exactly what that is naming. You see Rakdos return here for 2. Sulphur Fall and Angel of Glorious Rise do bite the dust. Connor is handless, but again, his hand is actually the cards that he's turning over Chronic Flooding.
Yeah.
And Vampire is the name with the Cavern of Souls.
So, yeah, I mean, he's basically just digging for Mirror Mad Phantasm to hope to win the game immediately.
But while doing that, you know, he does have a nice board presence as well. Yeah. So attacking from a lot of different angles right now.
So it'd be interesting to see here if I think John does have an ultimate price. So it's possible that he might realize that the only way Connor can really beat me at this point is with Mirror Mid Phantasm or attacking me for the kill.
Okay.
So maybe I'll just try to get in a point where I can kill his Laboratory Maniac and remove it from the game. But he still has to deal with the other angel that's attacking him. So, you know, it's not an unwinnable position, but he's going to need a little help.
All right.
So it looks like there's a little confusion around the High Priest.
It looks like we're just getting a board state set up. Okay, so in for 6 we go. And you see John move some cards back and forth here in his hand. He's going to take 6 more. Looks like he's going to go down to 4.
I think he has to ultimate price the Angel.
Angel goes bye-bye.
Maybe I'm wrong in that maybe he doesn't have an ultimate price, but if you can find a way to deal with the Angel, then it's not the worst scenario for him.
5 mana.
Hunt Master here. I mean, Fractals.
Yep.
Okay, that buys him some time. But again, those static assets are doing good work at just clearing the board.
They can clear the first half of the Theranos out of the way, then, you know, on his turn they can clear out the Beast token. And I know Isn't Static Astro the card that you said, you know, seems like it's pretty well positioned right now. If you think a lot of people are going to play an Iron Blitz deck, obviously this is a matchup where you particularly expect to see it be pretty good, but you can see the effect that it can definitely have on games.
I really like Staticaster. I think there's just some matchups where you just would love to have a reusable pinger, you know? We saw the match against Dave Williams. I mean, Staticaster is just really good against Naya Blitz. So I kind of can see how this Seance deck could be a little bit better positioned against a Reanimator as a Reanimator deck because, you know, if your matchup against Jund is good, why not have a little bit better matchup against Naya Blitz with Static Ashes and High Priest Penance? But again, I'm not totally convinced that this deck is a real deal yet, just because he hasn't done much of anything, and his opponent is basically just, I don't know, his opponent just can't find a way to deal with an Angel Serenity. If he's able to just kill that Angel Serenity, things don't look nearly as bad for him.
So John's gonna draw a card. Now last turn he did play that Overrun to untapped, and then didn't use the mana on his on Connor's turn. Now we do know, excuse me, that he has an ultimate price in his hand that he's just electing not to cast right now.
Yeah, does he actually have the ultimate price? I wasn't sure if he has it or not. Like I thought he had it, but maybe it was a murder. Because like if he has it, I don't know why he wouldn't use it on the Angel Serenity.
Sure. Now we're going to see Deadweight take care of the Laboratory Maniac. So that takes care of that. Now you see Stomping Ground coming to play tapped. You're going to see Rakdos return.
The question is, though, is John just too low at this point for it to matter?
Yeah, I mean, sitting at 1 life, and if we're correct about him at the ultimate prices, you see Connor discard Chronic Flooding and Faithless Looting, and now you see him take a look there at Grafdigger's Cage. If it's ultimate price, he's actually doing all right, all things considered.
He really needs to draw another Rakdos Charm or a Slaughter Games.
I mean, the first step is he needs to take care of this Angel of Glorious Rise, so he doesn't die.
But the question is, when do you do it, though? Because you don't really want him to get the Laboratory Maniac back. Like, is he at 1 or is he at 6? Because I wasn't sure if he gained.
Yeah, he's at 1.
He's at 1. Okay, so he has the ultimate price for the Angel at least. But again, if I still don't know why he didn't cast it much earlier.
So ultimate price takes care of that.
He could have been sitting at like 16 life at this point. So it's going to be like Connor can basically get an Angel back with Seance, returning Mirrored Mad the Laboratory Maniac and the High Priest, but which still exposes John to the Mirrored Mad Phantasm kill. But at least
if he gets the problem, if he gets Angel back, Angel will come back, but those cards don't come back. Grafdigger's Cage doesn't allow those cards to come back at all.
So nothing actually. So he gets the Angel.
So he gets Angel Serenity back. So he's going to target its High Priest. It looks like he's going to target cards that he can actually cast, which are High Priest of Penance, Laboratory Maniac, and we'll see what the third card he chooses to target is.
So it looks like that's it.
And you see John wondering how many cards he has left in his deck, because now those Chronic Floodings, as good as they were in the early to mid game, have become a lot worse because they're detrimental now. So John's going to take a draw step.
So Slaughter Games on Mirrored Mad Phantasm would be pretty good. Maybe, depending on how many cards Connor has left in his library, if John actually has like a Huntmaster here, oh, even Olivia's probably the ideal card there.
So Olivia Valderin comes into play now. The Angel Serenity leaves from the Seance trigger at the end of turn. Now Olivia's in this little standoff here with those 3 instant static casters on when it's allowed to shoot and when it's not.
Yeah, but John's got plenty of mana, so he can respond to one of them. So pretty good shape right there.
But the difficult thing here, of course, is that yes, he has mana to respond, but let's say that Connor plays a High Priest. He plays High Priest, so when do you shoot? Because now if you have the High Priest resolve, then he can shoot it with a static caster and kill the Olivia.
Well, you have to. I think you have to respond to the High Priest.
And that's what John, you can see right now, is trying to figure out, is when exactly am I supposed to go about firing away with this Olivia Valderin. So if I fire away now, as he has a mana for 2 activations, so if I fire away now, then there are some responses that take place, but you see no movement here from John. He just lets the High Priest resolve.
Yeah, this is a tough spot for. So he's going to activate it, try to.
You can see that Connor's not sure when he's supposed to move. We're not quite sure if John knows when he's supposed to move. So now he's going to shoot his High Priest.
Yeah,
and now Olivia's going to bite the dust. Okay.
And Connor's able to play a Laboratory Maniac now, if he chooses to.
Well, he can, but he has to mill himself for 9 cards if he chooses to.
Yeah, how many cards does Connor have left?
Now that's something we can hopefully find out from our table spotter, exactly how many cards are left in the library. But the other kind of intricate thing here too is that yes, he can.
It looks like he's got the Phantasm in his hand.
Okay.
So he still has so he can't even flashback Faith Facility.
No, yeah, he can't do that because of Grafdigger's Cage.
Can he cast? He's got 5 cards left.
He's got 5 cards left in his deck.
He actually can't cast any of them.
Well, see, no, here's the
He can cast Laboratory Maniac and just win.
Yeah,
but
that's the thing.
He has to wait until next turn.
Yeah, he can cast Laboratory Maniac, but then if it dies, then it's a disaster.
Yeah. No, but like.
So you see John just passed the turn back.
Won't he just win if he casts Laboratory Maniac? Won't the trigger just... It's like when you have no cards in your library, right?
It's if you were to draw a card.
Okay.
So now you see Connor play Steam Fence untapped. Now you're going to see him cast Laboratory Maniac and pass the turn back.
So, alright, here we are.
John's going to take a draw.
He's still got the Seance, so even on his upkeep, he'll still win.
Yeah, he might be foolproof here, so he takes a draw. Maniac's going to come across.
Yeah,
oh, okay. And it's just he just draws a Staff and a Forest. So Connor's actually end up winning. He may have been foolproof there, as you know, if John does actually kill the Laboratory Maniac,